And so Grace's journey reminds us all that true strength is not found in wealth, status, or power, but in the courage to remain kind when faced with cruelty, and in the will to stand tall when the world tries to break you. The billionaire's mansion may have been the stage, but the lesson stretches far beyond its walls. Money can buy many things, but it cannot buy respect, compassion, or resilience. Grace proved that the impossible can happen when dignity meets determination. Her story is a reminder that even in the darkest places, one light can change everything. For all his wealth, power, and influence, the billionaire found himself wrestling with something money could not buy: understanding and connection. He had always been a man who believed every problem had a price tag, every challenge could be solved with the stroke of a pen or the signing of a check. But as he sat across from his mute daughter in the café, watching her light up for the first time in months, as the waitress communicated with her through graceful movements of sign language, he felt a weight settle over him. It was the weight of guilt, the realization that despite all his fortune, he had never truly been able to give his daughter what she needed most: someone who could speak her language. He struggled with his pride, with the nagging thought that maybe he had failed as a father, too wrapped up in boardrooms and billion-dollar deals to see the quiet pain in his own home. In that moment, the billionaire's struggle wasn't against rivals or market crashes, it was against himself, his own blindness, and the humbling truth that love, compassion, and understanding were far richer than any fortune he had ever earned. The cafe was warm and bustling, filled with the aroma of fresh coffee and the low hum of conversations. The billionaire entered with his daughter holding her hand gently as they made their way to a quiet corner. He had chosen this place hoping it might cheer her up, though he worried it was just another failed attempt to bridge the silent gap between them. His daughter sat quietly, her eyes scanning the room with a mix of curiosity and sadness. She rarely spoke, or rather couldn't, and though he tried to mask it, the father's heart ached each time he saw her retreat into herself. When the waitress approached, a young black woman with a kind smile, he expected the usual awkwardness. Most people didn't know how to interact with his daughter, and he braced himself for the moment. But then something remarkable happened. The waitress set down the menus, turned to the girl, and with graceful, practiced hands began signing. The daughter's eyes widened, her silence breaking into a radiant smile that lit up her whole face. For the first time in so long, she felt seen and understood. The billionaire froze, his breath catching in his throat, as he watched the two of them exchange words without a sound. The café seemed to fade away, the noise, the clinking cups, the chatter of other customers, all of it disappeared, leaving only this simple, powerful moment. In those few minutes, he realized something profound. In all his years of wealth and success, he had never given his daughter this gift of connection. And here, in the most ordinary of places, a stranger had done what he never could. The moment the waitress began signing, the young girl's world shifted. At first, she blinked in disbelief, unsure if her eyes were playing tricks on her. Then, as the graceful hand movements formed familiar words, her face lit up with pure astonishment. Her lips curved into a smile that had been absent for so long, a smile her father hadn't seen in years. She leaned forward eagerly, her hands trembling with excitement as she responded in sign language, her motions quick, almost frantic, as if afraid the magic would vanish if she didn't hold on tight. For the first time, she wasn't just a silent presence in the room, she was part of a conversation, alive and engaged. Her laughter, though soundless, rang louder than any words could. The billionaire watched in awe, his chest tightening, as he realized he was witnessing his daughter truly come alive. All the walls of isolation she had built around herself began to crumble in that instant. She looked at the waitress with gratitude shining in her eyes, her hands moving faster and faster, telling stories, asking questions, sharing pieces of herself she had locked away for too long. To the father, it felt like he was seeing his little girl for the very first time, not as someone trapped in silence, but as a vibrant, expressive soul yearning to connect. Tears welled in his eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming beauty of a moment he had thought might never come. In that cafe, surrounded by strangers, his daughter rediscovered her voice without ever making a sound. The girl's eyes lit up instantly. For the first time in a long time, someone outside her family was speaking her language. She smiled widely, her hands moving rapidly as she signed back her order. The waitress signed along effortlessly, her face glowing with warmth. The cafe, once just another place, suddenly became a space of belonging. The millionaire froze, his heart pounding. He had never seen his daughter so happy, so alive in conversation with a stranger. The millionaire watched in stunned silence. All his money, all his efforts, and yet he had never been able to give his daughter this, the feeling of being seen and understood. He realized that the waitress hadn't given his daughter food, she had given her dignity. And in that moment, he felt smaller, humbled by a truth he had ignored. Compassion and empathy were more valuable than all the riches he owned. Curious, the millionaire asked the waitress how she knew sign language. She explained gently her younger brother was deaf, and growing up, she had learned to sign, so he would never feel left out. What started as a necessity in her family became a part of her life. She never imagined it would allow her to connect with others outside her family until now. Her answer struck the millionaire deeply. She hadn't learned it for prestige, wealth, or recognition. She learned it out of love. After leaving the cafe, the millionaire couldn't stop replaying the moment in his mind, the way his daughter's face had lit up, how she had come alive through the waitress's hands. For years, he had poured his fortune into tutors, doctors, and therapies, believing money alone could solve her silence. But what he saw that day humbled him in ways no business deal ever had. It wasn't wealth that broke through her world of isolation, it was understanding, empathy, and connection. Sitting alone in his study, he looked around at the expensive art, the towering shelves of books, the polished wood that had once made him feel powerful, and realized how empty it all was compared to a single moment of genuine communication. For the first time, he felt small, not in weakness, but in clarity. He thought about the waitress, a young black woman working quietly, who carried within her the power to do what he, with all his resources, could not. And he understood then that true riches had nothing to do with money, but with the ability to touch another life. His daughter's joy had shown him a world he had been blind to, a world where compassion was worth more than diamonds. From that day forward, he was no longer just a man chasing profits, he was a father awakened, determined to learn, to change, and to give his daughter what no amount of money could buy, the simple, priceless gift of connection. This story reminds us that money can buy luxuries, but it can never replace the human heart. The millionaire discovered that true richness comes not from what we own, but from how we treat others. The black waitress, with her compassion and willingness to connect, taught a father what no fortune ever could. And perhaps in her small act of kindness, she didn't just give joy to a little girl, she also opened the heart of a man who thought he already had everything.